So we'll continue with part 2 on this reply to Mike in the application of set theory or formal logic. And so far all we've really done is try to address these problems in his understanding here, as well as the understanding of what a proposition is, because on the comments that I had from Mike on the comment section of the first video, it was that God exists is not a proposition. Well, God exists is a proposition. We could say, for example, God exists and God doesn't exist, and this would be a contradiction, because God exists is a proposition and it holds a truth value. It could be true or false, whereas AH cannot be true or false. So to say AH and not AH, then again we don't have a contradiction. And I believe that this was Mike's understanding of my argument about atheism being, when I say that atheists are wrong in describing what atheism is by what it is not. Because what I'm really saying is what atheism, when we say atheism is a belief that there's no God, then we're describing positively an atheist. When we say an atheist is someone who doesn't believe in God, then we're describing him negatively, and we're not talking about what an atheist is, we're talking about what an atheist is not. So in this way, there's no contradiction suggested in my part whatsoever. In other words, I'm not saying that there's a contradiction involved. This seemed to be Mike's understanding, and it certainly isn't what I'm saying. I'm saying that when you say an atheist is what it isn't, it's simply false. It's not a contradiction. Now, I did mention contradiction in the video, but the contradiction was in reference to the application of allowing a secondary predication to declare a truth about an object. And that is, if we're talking about an object through its secondary predicate, that is what it's not, then when we say God doesn't exist, if true, would prove God does exist, because a truth about an object would prove an object exists. So it was an application to another argument where the contradiction arose. Certainly there's no contradiction in saying that an atheist is not a rock, or atheist is not larger than a planet. But what I am saying is that when you say that, you aren't saying something true about what the atheist is, you're saying something true about what the atheist is not. So you haven't said anything true about the atheist at all. You've said something true about what he isn't. So it isn't the case that I'm saying AH is not AH, or that there's a contradiction involved. And I'm certainly not implying that there's any contradiction involved. What I'm saying is that an atheist is not larger than a planet. I mean, you could represent that as an atheist is not PL, and an atheist is not the number 1, or the atheist is not H, and stuff like that, or it does not have H. And in each case, what you're talking about is what the atheist is not, and what the atheist does not have. You're not talking about what an atheist is. You're talking about what they are not, or not what an atheist is, right? It's what they aren't. So we want to talk about what an atheist is in order to describe an atheist, not talk about what it isn't. So when I say that an atheist is not a believer in God, then that's true, but not about what an atheist is. It's true about what an atheist is not. So it's not represented as an atheist is not an atheist. It's represented as an atheist is not someone, or not a being with horns. Then you're saying that that's true, but it's not true about what an atheist is. So there's the difference in the argument, and perhaps what I was trying to say and what Mike's trying to understand.
So I could proceed then at that point to discuss a certain point, say we'll call it X star, which is a representative animal, if you like, in the set U. And I could write something down, say X star is an element of AH. Now I think that makes a very clear statement that is true about X star just by observing here what's shown in the diagram. We can see that we could write something like this. And it seems to me quite clear that this statement refers to X star. It doesn't make any statement as opposed to any statement about what X star is not. Because what X star is not is every other point in U except X star.
Okay, so here Mike is describing X star as a member of the set of non-horned animals. All right, let's get past the not and non, at least to get to the gist of what he's trying to say, rather than in the meaning of what he's trying to say, rather than the technical issues of what he's trying to say. So let's use an example as a cat. The cat is a member of the set of non-horned animals, and he's pointing out that this doesn't refer to anything about not about the cat. Now, if we talk about a proposition about the cat, we say the cat does not have horns. So in that case, it would. But he's saying in this exact example, it refers to, and it would, independent of the non-issue. If we simply say that X star is a member of the set of non-horned animals, then yes, that would be valid. But we're not, and he's saying as opposed to referring to not X star, and I wasn't saying that it ever did refer to not X star. What I was saying that is that X star is not a horned animal, is not H. It doesn't say something true about X star. So when we say X star is not H, then we're saying something true, but we're not saying something true about what X star is. We're saying something true about what X star is not. So essentially, he's come full circle, only to understand that what I was not saying was not X star is not X star. Rather, X star is not H. Is not saying something true about X star. It's saying something true about what X star is not.
So by making a statement such as this, I'm certainly, it seems to me, making a statement about X star and its membership in a certain set called AH, and I don't make any reference whatever to what X star is not.
Okay, so in set theory again, there's no not. There's no not X star. This would be a nonsensical term as much as it would be not H. There's no such thing in set theory. That's non-H, non-X star. Okay, that would be the main difference, and again, it's because X star doesn't have a truth value. It can't have a truth. It can't be true or false. It's the same thing with H. These are sets. They're not propositions, and they're not properties. To be using not, and it has to be in a proposition or with a property. And so, in more to the gist, though, again, of what he was what Mike was trying to indicate to me was X star as opposed to referring to not X star. And certainly this is a statement about, again, like a cat who's a member of the set of non-horned animals. And certainly when we make a proposition then about this cat, then it must use the word not. He says it doesn't here. Well, that's because not is never used in set theory.
So, I don't know, I really am at a loss as to understand how it is that you see a contradiction occurring in this type of this use of the logical negation operator. But so if you want to keep talking to me about that, that's great. If you just think I'm nuts, that's fine too.
So when I said in my previous video that it's true that I have no horns, it's the same as saying it's true that X star is a member of the set of non-horned animals, or in this case I would be X star or instead of a cat. So it's saying the same thing. All it's saying is that it's true that I have no horns, and it is true that I'm a member of the set of non-horned animals, and that's true. I mean, I said that in my first video when I'm saying it's true that I have no horns. What I'm saying is that when you do say that that's true, it's not true about you. What it is true about what you're not, and so there you go. The reason why not doesn't exist in set theory is because, again, a set doesn't have a truth value. It's not true or false, so not doesn't apply. In any case, there you go. Not X star and not H were inventive, but they weren't set theory. And look forward to, if you do want to have any further, I don't think you're nuts. I think it's great that you came out with your thinking and your thought processes this explicitly, because this is, this is how we're going to get to the root of why we're seeing things differently, that's for sure. And implore you to explore set theory and basic logic as well, and the not operator and propositions and what they are. And try not to treat sets and members of sets as propositions. Otherwise you'd end up with this kind of a problem. And so I hope you've enjoyed this, and it's meant to complement things as to understanding for people rather than to be antagonistic in any way. So cheers, everyone.